everyone, and welcome to another episode of Life as an Aspie with me, Natalie Sherlock. So today is a very exciting day because it is the start of Neurodiversity Week this week. Hooray! And so I thought I would try and make a video every day of the week this week, starting from Mondays, which is today. And the first kind of video I wanted to make is what is neurodiversity. So I want to go right back to basics. So if you're a regular, if you're a subscriber of this channel, then you will already know what neurodiversity is. But if you're new to this channel and you've just found me and you're thinking, what on earth is she talking about? I will tell you. So neurodiversity is anyone with a different whose brain is wired differently. Like so, autism, ADHD, bipolar disorder. That's a neurodiversity. Dyslexia, dyspraxia. All of those different what the outside world calls disorders. I really hate the word disorder. So like, because it's not a disorder, it's a difference. I mean, we're, usually, obviously it's not all the time, but we can kind of, I'm a lot more organised. Well, it's not actually about organisation. Well, when they call it a disorder, they don't mean sort of chaotic, although having ADHD is chaotic. But one thing I wanted to do was kind of go deep dive into autism and ADHD, what they were. So we'll start with autism. It's a developmental or a cognitive difference. So our brain is wired differently. And it means that we think differently, we have a different perspective. It's really difficult to describe autism to someone that doesn't have it because it's a completely different, and I have no idea what being neurotypical is like because I'm not neurotypical. But neurodivergent, having like autism, there are different traits. So people can struggle with certain things like social interactions. We struggle with small talk. Like when, my ex will phone me up and say, hi, how are you doing? I'm like, what do you want? Not to be rude. It sounds rude to neurotypical people, but what I mean is get down to the point of why you phoned. I don't want to hear like, how are you? Like, what's the point in that? Because like normally when someone says, hi, how are you? You immediately lie and say, yeah, I'm fine, even when you're not fine. And if you're not fine, then like if you explain to them why you're not fine, it's you're like, and all of a sudden you've overwhelmed them with all of your trauma and whatever bad stuff happens to be going on at the time. But having ADHD is a bit different. So ADHD is a chemical imbalance in the brain. It's actually a lack of dopamine, or our brain don't produce enough dopamine, which, if you don't know, is the happy hormone, which is why a lot of people with ADHD suffer with depression. And the reason, ADHD is actually a really bad name for it because it's not, ADHD stands for attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, but attention deficit is not a deficit of attention. We don't lack focus, we don't lack attention, we lack the ability to know what to focus on, because there are probably like 11,000 different bits of information that we are having to process all at once. And the best way I can describe it, and if you're a regular on this channel, you'll know that my television shop analogy, it's like if you were in a television shop, like in Curry's or something, not sponsored, although, yeah, anyway, so televisions. So you're looking at loads of televisions at the same time, but they're all playing a different program or film. So you're like, oh, and here we have a kangaroo in its natural habitat, and but over here is get out of my pub. Is like that was David Attenborough and EastEnders, by the way, if you didn't get that. But like, so you don't know what to focus on because it's all coming at you at once, and it's really difficult to deal with. And so people with ADHD often struggle with addiction, and that's because we are constantly chasing dopamine. So substances, addictive substances like alcohol and drugs and stuff like that, they give you dopamine. That's why it's called dope. Like they produce like a high, give you a load of dopamine, but then of course the downside to that is you crash. And also the downside to that is that it is extremely bad for your body and your brain. So other people get addicted to other stuff like gambling, which obviously can be devastating, because it can obviously make people really, really poor and have no money, and they lose relationships, they lose jobs, they lose their home. It can be really bad. But also another really interesting one is people can get addicted to like adrenaline seeking. So like they will do extreme sports and put themselves at risk to seek the dopamine. And another thing that we do is we like switch from one hobby to another. Like, for example, I found this screwdriver on the beach and I'm going to restore it. I probably won't finish, but I'm going to, whilst the dopamine is still whizzing through my body, I will, do as much as I can to it. I want to finish it, but I've got an unfinished coffee table. So basically 2 years ago when I caught COVID, when I was recovering from it, as I was convalescing, I completed a jigsaw puzzle. Now, it was one of the first ones I'd ever completed, actually, because I completed like ones when I was younger, like little ones, like kids ones, but like not a proper 500-piece jigsaw puzzle. And I was so pleased with myself that I decided that I want to set it in resin and make a coffee table out of it. So I've got the wood, I haven't got any resin yet, but the point is I've got a chair. I'm restoring a chair, which I've done quite a lot to. I just need to finish sanding it and prime it with primer and paint it. But obviously I need money to buy the primer, and it's a whole thing. I tend to do things either until I get bored with them or until there's an obstacle that I can't overcome, or it's just I give up because I hit a brick wall. But another thing we do is talk a lot, and I mean a lot. And we also struggle with impulse control. So a lot of in the classroom, calling out, not being able to contain your excitement, or if you have something to say, if thoughts pop into your brain, you can't help yourself but say them or do them, which can get kids into a lot of trouble. And I find it really difficult to deal with. And then there is rage attacks, which is something about ADHD that most people don't talk about. So rage attacks are, intense emotional reactions to a certain trigger. And it's most commonly associated with something called RSD, which is rejection sensitive dysphoria, which is broken down is an intense physical and emotional pain caused by either a perceived rejection or criticism. With me, particularly, it's criticism, although I do have rejection phobia as well, but it's like really difficult, because if someone says something to me that I perceive as criticism, even if they're not criticizing me, it's usually wrong, but like if someone says, oh, why did you do that, or if someone criticizes me in any way, or perceived criticism, I go completely into a rage attack, which is where the self-harming comes into it. But I've stopped that, and if anyone is trying to, if anyone does that as well, so it's, with me, it's when I get so angry and there's so much emotional pain, I can't release it, and I need to feel physical pain to release it. But I have stopped that now. So 3 months, coming up 4 months, I've been not doing that. And if you're in the same boat, just kind of, the way I've been doing it is give yourself rewards for every month you don't do it. Give yourself a reward for not doing it. So it's something to hold on to. Like, next month I can do this, and but although I haven't actually been keeping up with the rewards, so I'm owed like 4 months worth of rewards, which we're going to do all of them at once in the Easter holidays. Not at once, obviously, but like all of them in the Easter holidays. So I'm really looking forward to that. And, and it's also just like not good, like to hurt yourself, or others, just like be safe. And, there are lots of techniques that you can use. If you're like angry, punch something that's not going to hurt you or anyone else, like a pillow or something like that, or boxing gloves. If you've got boxing gloves and a heavy bag, like one of those punch bags, you can punch that instead. Or I go shooting. I go to gun club. Well, I was going every week, but since we've not had a car, I haven't been able to go. But that's a really cathartic, if you don't know, it means like it sort of releases your anger. It's like, and I find that incredibly cathartic. But you see, you can't shoot if you're angry, so you have to physically calm down in order to shoot. So you have to be calm and still, and keep really still and breathe. And whatever you in order to shoot. So and also sports like exercise. I play cricket as well. So so like any kind of outdoor, any kind of sport where you're like running around, or just go for a run, literally, or a walk. You don't have to run, you can just power walk or something. But it's really good for you to do all these things. And if you're in a situation where you can't physically get out of the situation, you know, obviously there's like breathing and like if you've got like access to fidget toys, or just like click your pen or something like that, you know, anything you can use to distract your mind in that situation. Mostly what works for me is being distracted and also laughing, but because of my distractibility, yeah, that's another thing. We are very, very easily distracted, which is why I like kind of switch tangents. I switch subjects like there's no tomorrow. But like, you know, it's kind of like a thing where you and that's another thing. You'll be in the middle of a sentence and completely forget what you're saying, like I've just done. But no, I was talking about tangents and distractibility. Before that, I was talking about shooting and cricket and running and distractions. Yes, that's what. Phew. It's so horrible when you forget. But distractions. So I was saying that because I'm obsessed with sitcoms, often when I'm rowing with it's usually Mum that's the cause of my outburst. But if I'm having an outburst, a rage attack, or whatever, then oftentimes I will be reminded of a comedy sitcom quote, and I will quote it, and you know, I'll end up laughing or whatever. I think it's also important to distance, if you can get away from the situation physically, get away from it. But like sometimes Mum and I kind of row over text, so you know, we're not shouting and screaming at each other. Like I stop talking to her sometimes because I'm so angry, and I write it down instead, which is actually a really good thing to do because you're thinking about what you're saying before you're saying it, and you're also it's sometimes when you're really angry, I find that the words don't formulate in my brain, or if they do, they don't come out of my mouth. There is some kind of disconnect there between thoughts and what I'm trying to get across and actually what I'm saying. So that can be really helpful as well, to write it down. And yeah, so there are many other aspects to both autism and ADHD that I haven't got time to go into in this video, but I will maybe carry that on tomorrow. But for now, guys, I think I better wrap it up there before my phone runs out of storage, which it always does when I'm trying to film a video. But I've got 3 minutes left at the moment, so, you know, so this is why I'm wrapping it up. But I hope you all have a fantastic neurodivergent week. And if you learned something from this video, it would be awesome if you could share it with someone. So if you're a parent or a carer with a child with autism, or if you are a teacher or teaching assistant like I am, you can share it and spread insights into what it's like living with a neurodiversity. So I will say goodbye, God bless, and continue being awesome.